Campfire season's back, and that means s'mores. But when you're at home treating yourself, take them over ice with Dunkin' S'mores Cold Brew Concentrate. And suddenly you're always treating yourself. The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be. Click or tap the banner to shop now.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Thursday, March 27th, 2025. Born on this date in 1921, 30-year Congressman Tom Bevel of Townley. That Alabama 4 seat has belonged to Robert Adderholt ever since. 31 years ago today, an F4 tornado struck the Goshen United Methodist Church in Piedmont, killing 20 people who were inside. Today is also opening day for the Major League Baseball season, so I'm going to have on the show Ben Flanagan and Mark Heim, and we're going to pick our favorite all-time baseball movies. Baseball movies are a genre of their own, so there are plenty to pick from. I think we're going to do it draft style, where we go around the horn picking our favorites. If you're the type who uses baseball movie quotes during your day, you're one of us, so it should be fun. First, however, for those getting their news on the run, we have our news updates. There's a space-related business story from North Alabama, a school that's closing after 120 years, and a state list that we've all been waiting for. It's one that doesn't matter until it really matters. I'm Mike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. United Launch Alliance, a company with a big investment in North Alabama, is now authorized to fly national security space missions, reports AL.com's John R. Roby. The authorization is for United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket. Blue Origin makes the BE-4 engines that are integrated into Vulcan at United Launch Alliance's Decatur plant. Until now, only SpaceX had certification to fly these type missions, but United States Space Force is expecting to ramp up its national security launches. The Vulcan can deliver national security space launch spacecraft directly into geosynchronous orbit. A Jackson County school is closing after educating students for 120 years, reports AL.com's Heather Gann. Flat Rock School serves pre-K through 6th grade students. The entire school's enrollment was only 64 this year. Superintendent Jason Davidson said they had teachers covering multiple classrooms and as many as 5 subjects. He said also that there's currently no counselor in place. So the Jackson County School Board unanimously voted this week to close Flat Rock at the end of the school year. Even with its dwindling numbers, some in the area had hoped to save the small community school, even launching an online petition to save it. Flat Rock School was founded in 1905 by the United Methodist Church Conference, and it was sold to the state in 1929. Well, there are many, many lists of state rankings on every issue you can imagine that come down the pike. Most of them we pass right on by. Some of them we share here. And then there are the rare ones we simply cannot ignore because they speak to us as a people. The Math and Stats website Giga Calculator has produced a study that ranked Alabama the second most likely state in the U.S. to survive an alien invasion, reports AL.com's Mary Colurso. Now, how would one rank states on such a thing? Well, Giga Calculator examined the number of UFO sightings, access to food and water, numbers of medical professionals and scientists, military presence, population density, and places to run and hide. Now, just glancing at that criteria, we probably would be in a decent position. And somebody out there still has a toilet paper stockpile from summer 2020, if they'll just share with the rest of us. Now, although military and places to run and hide aside, I think we could win them over with Southern hospitality, of course. Take them to a ball game and a pig picking, and they might be ready to invest instead of invade, unless they ally with the pigs first. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back here, Ben Flanagan and Mark Heim will join me to pick the greatest baseball movies of all time. Y'all stay with us.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, thanks for staying with us, everybody. Today on the show, it's a really special show because it's a really special day. Today, most baseball teams open their season. Most major league teams open their season. And so I've brought in two guys that I've talked a little ball with over the years and talked a little movies with them also. So we thought we would have just a little draft. We'll do, pick three each to share with y'all. And nobody will argue. I'm sure we'll all be in lockstep on every one. We'll see how that goes. But I'm going to welcome back to the show, both of them. First of all, the host of Beat Everyone, University of Alabama podcast, Ben Flanagan. Welcome back to Down in Alabama.
Thanks. I love Down in Alabama. You know that.
Well, we love having you here. You also you were the first guy to ace our quiz. So you said,
yeah, I troll people with that all the time. It's one of the proudest notches in my belt that I have. And I think it got annoying the first time, but I'm still doing it.
You were so modest in victory that it was impressive.
That's my style, Ike.
Also, before we go, Mark Heim, who does a sports radio show on WNSP and writes for AL.com.
It is, and wait a minute, hold on, Mark. I'm good to be here. I didn't know I was going to be on with Teacher's Pet here. When in the like, what are we doing here? I feel like I'm getting bamboozled.
Well, Ben has that film background.
Oh, I know. Yeah, and Ike, Ben came on my show on WNSP to talk about Con Air, I believe. I mean, I think it's the first and only time on our airwaves that I've had such a in-depth discussion about bunnies and boxes and where to put the bunnies and all sorts of stuff.
Hopefully not the last, Mark. I'm willing to come talk Con Air anytime. The best movie ever made about Alabama. So, Ike, if you ever want to get into it on a show called Down in Alabama, I'm ready and willing at any time.
What happened to... I almost just said, I'm getting my movies confused. I almost just said, what happened to Bud from Urban Cowboy? But that's the other guy in Face Off that's in Con Air, right?
That's right. We're talking about the great Nick Cage, of course, with one of the great accents and great haircuts in movie history, let alone Alabama. But we digress, don't we? Not a baseball movie.
Yeah, let's please digress. We decided we would go alphabetically so that I could go last, which is, I figured, the generous way for me to do this. What we're going to do here, guys, is we're going to hold a sort of a draft. So there'll be a first pick and a second pick, and we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 till we get to 9 total movies. We'll talk about them, why we like them so much, and let the folks hate us for it. Let's just jump right in. Ben Flanagan, with number 1.
Oh, man, what an honor this is. I was concerned about the format. I didn't know if it would be the way we're doing it or if it would be a snake format. So now I'm feeling like I'm going to get everything on my board here. And I'm not stupid, I don't think, when it comes to like movie drafts like this. So I'm not just going to like leave money on the table here and let jackals like you pick it apart. So I'm going to go with a heavy hitter as my number one pick. From 1989, I'm going with Major League. Major League, and I'm guessing that was on y'all's boards. If I like, don't be afraid to admit it. But this movie to me, it's just the total package when it comes to baseball movies. You know, it's highly profane, so there's a little bit of authenticity in terms of what a dugout and locker room might sound like. But it's charming. You know, it has humor. It has unforgettable, hilarious characters. You know, I mentioned that authenticity. I think that baseball looks like the sport of baseball in this movie. And the actors like Tom Berenger and Charlie Sheen and Wesley Snipes, it all looks like they know how to play. They know how to throw a ball. They know how to swing a bat. They know how to round the bases. They know how to field ground balls. Maybe Corbin Burnson, not so much, but that's just a plot point in the movie. But it's like one of the true underdog movies, one of the great true underdog movies, given that it's set in Cleveland and they play their way out of being sold by their greedy owner all the way to making a pennant run. And it's just so funny, so many unforgettable lines, most of which I can't utter on these airwaves, Ike, because I know you have a family audience on down in Alabama, but it's just wonderful. I can pick up and watch it at any time when it's on, whether it's on cable, whether it's on Netflix, whatever it happens to be. But, you know, another thing I love about it too, the opening credits just beautifully sets the table for an amazing underdog story with Randy Newman's song "Burn On" playing, and it's just perfect. It's a perfect movie. You can't go wrong with it, baseball or otherwise.
Well, I would agree because it was number one on my list, so I'm going back to the draft board. But I'm a child of the '80s and early '90s. It's one of the more quotable movies. And for the record, Corbin Burnson maybe couldn't feel those because he took one of those in the eye once, and he wasn't about to lose his eyesight. Which goes back to your point, which is it's the single most quotable baseball movie that I reference on a daily basis. And you mentioned it's just got, like, Harry Doyle is one of the most iconic characters in any sports movie. Bob Uecker was just perfect for it. Yeah. I loved it. It had a little bit of everything. Yeah, it got goofy at times, but I think it played to everybody's strengths. And at the same time, it still was able to capture kind of that dramatic in-game feel at the end of the movie. So I loved it. It was clearly number one on my list, Ike. So I have to move down the board. I might have to look to get a trade to save time on the clock and regather my thoughts. Ike, I don't know what you thought about Major League.
Well, Major League, I can't believe this, it was number one on mine.
Whoa, first overall.
As well. You know, you mentioned Bob Uecker, rest in peace. That was, you know, it really was a silly movie at a lot of times, but you have to remember this is the era of the Naked Gun franchise.
Sure.
And me being in high school. So that had to, you know, that was peak silly right there.
Yeah.
A story I have about Major League that I just realized how well it resonated. I think the closer you are to baseball, the more likely you are to go Major League number one. I think maybe if you're not so much, then you're going to some of the more of the classic older movies and the drama and the non-baseball stuff. But like you say, we watch Major League for the baseball. And I played Dixie Majors was the affiliation. We were driving on a bus to the World Series one year, and this was like 90. So we're a year out, and Major League is the movie they're playing on this travel bus. So yeah, they did us right, by the way. But at some point, all this profanity sounds like it's in stereo. And I look around, and everybody on the bus, all the players are mouthing out every line. They had already completely memorized the movie.
It's just a great script. It's like a great script, and it tells a great story. James Gammon, too. I want to be sure to shout out Lou Brown, the manager who is hesitant to even take the job. I just thought it's one of my favorite parts. He's working in like a tire shop somewhere, I think maybe in Cleveland or wherever, and they call and say, "How would you like to manage the Cleveland Indians?" And he just immediately says, "Oh, I don't know." You know, it's just like, why wouldn't you take that job? But he's one of the all-time greats, and you're right, man. Bob Uecker, as pitch perfect as it gets, as just a line deliverer delivery. Like he's just
Hey, all you Wahoo fans! In case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't. I mean, it was just perfect, right?
perfect.
And how many times do you hear at every baseball game you attend to this day, just a bit outside? At least a dozen.
Yeah, totally.
When Tom Berenger's at the plate, what's that New York Yankees first baseman's name? I can't remember the
Clu
character's
Haywood.
name. That's right. And he says, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "How are your wife and my kids?" Brutal, man. Perfect.
And then the Duke throwing at his own kid at a father-son game was really good too. It's just ridiculous. When this guy sneezes, he looks like a party favor. And Monty probably got paid more than anybody per word in the whole movie. His analyst.
Yeah, he's not the best color guy in the game for nothing, folks.
Exactly. I use that one with Chris Stewart name drop there when he comes on the show quite a bit.
When they were advertising the movie and they started playing the trailer in theaters, on the long trailer, they had a scene that didn't show up in the movie. And I remember everybody being kind of disappointed because it was a cool line. And it showed up in Major League 2 with other people saying the line. And that's the one, that ball wouldn't have been out of most parks. Yeah, name one. And the answer is, somebody pick me up.
I don't remember.
Yellowstone.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah. See, it didn't make the main movie, the good movie.
Yeah, I stopped remembering lines after the first one. I got to be honest. Too high. What do you mean too high? Yeah, great. All right, so let's move on because at this point we're looking at a 90-minute pod, which I'm more than happy to do. But we got to get. I'm on the clock. Can I go to the? With the second overall pick, I'm going to stay in that decade, 1988's Bull Durham.
Ooh.
With Kevin Costner. It's probably one of three Kevin Costners that's on my list. My second one might surprise you. But this one just perfectly encapsulates what minor league baseball is all about. Keeping with the comedy, staying with all the locker room rituals. It's got how can you not root for a guy named Crash Davis? And then the way he mentors Tim Robbins. Some of the lines in this are just unbelievable. It's a great movie. Got a little bit of a love story there, a little competition there, but all the advice he gives Tim Robbins for when he gets to the majors. Some of those are the most quotable lines. Hitting the butt of the bull to get the home run, the free steak dinner, and getting the rain out by turning on the sprinklers. I think it resonates with a lot of people, and anybody that's gone to a AA or AAA game can truly appreciate it. So, Bull Durham, Heim's first pick, the second overall pick in the baseball movie draft.
And a strong one it is. Ben, what are your thoughts?
It's great. I mean, it's just like on the shortest possible list of great baseball movies. Like I think in any other draft, it would probably go number one overall, like just depending on who's picking. So I've got a lot of respect for that movie. And again, like one of the most important things to me with baseball movies and any sports movie is, again, that authenticity, that the actors in the movie look like ball players. And they throw the ball, they swing the bat, they do everything and convince you that it's lived in, right? Like I believe that the Durham Bulls were a real minor league baseball team with those guys. And so Kevin Costner, obviously somebody who played ball and understands it and how to deliver that on screen and tell a story through sport. But also like just the Susan Sarandon, like the romance, the love triangle of it all. It's just really densely written. And Ron Shelton is a guy who understands sports and understands baseball in particular. And so he's just such a sharp writer. I think that script got nominated for an Oscar, maybe for best screenplay back in the 80s. I could be wrong there, but I remember as a kid, because growing up, like it was one of those movies, and I don't want to age myself too much, but like I remember like that was one where it was baseball. I had to see it, right? Because I'm a kid playing Little League, and my parents said, no, you can't watch that. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's Kevin Costner. It's the Field of Dreams guy, right? Like, it's a baseball movie. I have to watch it. And they're like, no, you're not going to watch that for a while. And once I finally watched it, when it wasn't on cable and I could see like what they meant, I was like, okay, Mom and Dad, I understand why you didn't let me watch that one. It's pretty crass.
He's wearing what on the mound?
Yeah.
What?
It's pretty crass too. I mean, compared to Major League, maybe not, but it's got some blue humor. But it's fantastic, and for all the reasons that you said, Mark. It's a baseball classic.
Yeah. There's no doubt. It was high on my list. It wasn't as high as number two, but I'm wondering how a generation of catchers became cocky jerks to their pitchers, and this is completely how. I mean, what an influence! What an influence!
Bull Durham, one of the great movie titles, in my opinion, too. It's just such a cool title. I love those 2-word 80s titles like Bull Durham, Raging Bull, no relation, Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Just to me, one of the all-time greats. So it's an awesome pick, Mark.
Yeah, great pick. Okay, it looks like I'm on the clock. So in the first round with the number 3 selection overall is the number 2 on my list. And I did Costner again, Field of Dreams.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what can you say other than the fact that Shoeless Joe Jackson had like a Brooklyn accent? He came right out. He literally came right out of a mob movie with Ray Liotta playing his part, and the fact that I have never had a catch with anybody in my life, so I'm not even sure what that means. The rest of it was pretty beautiful. And, I'm not one to tear up at a movie, but playing catch with his dad that he hadn't seen in so many years, and his dad being out there young and vibrant. What a beautiful movie. I mean, can anybody argue with me on that?
No, not at all. It's great. And I agree with you. Like, you play a catch, you don't have a catch. Before and after this movie, had you ever heard that phrase uttered by anybody else on the planet? So strange, but we all just accepted it. I think the emotions were just running too high, where it's like we couldn't stop and say, wait, what'd he say? It's just like, oh no, the waterworks are going, and you gotta embrace the moment. But it's I remember like watching it all the way through for the first time, after I had again seen bits and pieces of it, like on VHS or on cable or whatever. And you forget about this whole subplot where he has to go kidnap James Earl Jones, and bring him back to the house. And it's just like, wow, this thing goes left of the dial a little bit. I think more so than people might remember. But James Earl Jones, so brilliant. Obviously, you get a late in his career Burt Lancaster appearance. The evil Timothy Busfield, and poor Gabby Hoffman falling off of the bleachers after choking on a hot dog. I remember that was one of the most tense moments, and Frank Whaley running up to the first baseline, and making that decision to cross the plane, so to speak. It's just a powerful imagery, powerful lines. And when people say baseball movie, again, this is just one of those that just pops into your brain as soon as they say it.
I'm going to be a little bit of a contrarian here, okay? And let me be perfectly clear. Love the movie. It's on my list, but it's kind of way down my list for a number of the reasons, Ben, that you just talked about. Like, when this came out, like, I'm a kid, right? I'm 13, 14 years old, 12, whatever it was. I want to see baseball action. Let's get to it. Bull Durham, Major League, like they were hitting, they were running, they were doing all the things. There were quips. It was funny. The conversation was quick. It was up tempo. And Field of Dreams, I'm just like, I've watched it multiple times. I'm like, let's just get to the end. Let's just get to the point where they come out in scrimmage. And I get it. He's got house problems. He can't be putting up a field in the middle of his cornfield. Like, let's just get to it. And so I just thought it was slow. And I love the fact that we do the Field of Dreams game and they come out of the corn stalks. Like, it's all brilliant, right, from Major League Baseball standpoint. But not among my 5 or 6 where I'm just going to be like, yeah, let's go. Just a bit outside, tried the corner and missed. You know what I mean? It just didn't have that same pop for me. Again, great movie. Love Kevin Costner. I actually have a Costner movie, and you guys probably know what it is since I'm mentioning it. I actually have another one rated higher than Field of Dreams for that reason. I just felt like it was just a little slow. It was a lot slow for me.
It wasn't as slow as when Kevin Costner walked to the mound during that Field of Dreams game that they broadcast. Yeah. Remember, between the White Sox and the Yankees, and I guess they did that in Iowa. What's the line? Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. Just brilliant stuff. Yeah. But man, what an amazing moment that inspired in terms of Major League Baseball. Building a field and making broadcasting a game like that. It was incredible, and it just got you in the feels again. But I think it was a good pick. Unlike Mark, I think that you made a really good pick there. So I admire
Ben
it.
just wants to come back on the show. I'm indifferent at this point. I'm just indifferent.
I have respect for our host and his picks. Okay.
Well, Ben gets to go on Mark's show, so that's the big get right there.
Well, you keep making picks like that, it's going to make me easy not to invite you.
Oh, Field of Dreams, That's the safest.
And I'm probably
going to
get murdered in the comments on this for my take on Field of Dreams. And again, I have to tell you that it's not that I don't like it. There are other ones that I have in front of it that are just more entertaining. That's all. By the way, I will say this before we continue after round one. I will say that baseball, unlike pretty much any other sport, just caters itself to movies, right? With the exception of maybe boxing movies. Like, there's no other sport that seems to get captured by the essence of film or whatever and the drama that is baseball. So kudos to the for that part of it anyway. I'll
baseball
say that.
Is life. Yeah, the whole baseball is life thing.
All right, so we start round 2, I believe, right?
Yeah,
so,
Ben's on.
I'm
the clock.
next again. I get to go again. Oh man, spoiled here. Okay, I'm going to pick one that I don't think you guys are going to pick. So I think it would be there maybe in round 3, but just in case, I'm going to go for it. It's from 1992, A League of Their Own. Penny Marshall's just deeply heartfelt portrait of the inaugural season of women's Major League Baseball. To me, it's just like it's a perfect film, and it's one of the purest forms of American entertainment, mainstream Hollywood studio entertainment in the early 90s. To me, it's a classic. It helps us understand that it doesn't matter who's swinging the bats, whether it's men or women. The game is just pure either way. And I think that this movie has thrilling game sequences. Again, it has that authenticity that is required, at least while I'm watching it and giving it my stamp of approval. But the ensemble cast is just unbelievable. The collection of people that they have in this movie, from the Rockford Peaches, Gina Davis, Lori Petty, Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell. But to me, like, you get an all-timer performance from Tom Hanks as their hapless drunk of a manager, a former ball player himself named Jimmy Dugan. John Lovitz in an incredible supporting performance as the scout, recruiting the women to come play in the league. And to me, it's just, again, like, as good as it gets. It's filmed beautifully, perfect script, and just great performances, and it delivers on the baseball. That's the most important thing. Are you delivering on the sport itself? And it just fantastic climax between the Rockford Peaches and the Racine. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank here, but the team from Racine, where Lori Petty has been traded, just fantastic. Again, I think it probably would have been there in the third round, but I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and pick this and name this as one of my favorite and one of the all-time great baseball movies.
I can confirm it would have been around for the third round. I liked it.
Hater. You're a hater, dude. You're playing the role of hater in this.
Speaking of hater, did you not want to just did you not just hope that Laura Petty's character, I know she was phenomenal in it, but wasn't she like the most annoying baseball player in that movie though? Like,
well, that's the point. That's character.
I know. I'm just saying it was
storytelling.
incredibly annoying.
Right. So maybe you're rethinking that it should have been on your board now because of how impactful and effective her performance and the character were. The Racine Bells is what they were. The Racine Bells.
I didn't have a problem. I actually liked the movie. I'm not saying it wasn't on my board. I'm saying it's not a good GM never reveals. I will say, though, I loved Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell, and I thought were really good with their roles. And Gina Davis, and I think the chemistry that she had with Tom Hanks, because I think all the way through you're kind of like, is there something there? Is there not something there? I thought that was pretty good. And then him walking in his drunken stupor and using the restroom was just an iconic scene where they were just amazed.
This is kind of controversial, I think, for people and just movie lovers. This is my favorite Tom Hanks performance. Of all the Tom Hanks performance, he is on fire, man. And he is just reminding people he is a comedic actor. And like we've gotten it since then in things like Toy Story and other comedies that he's been in. But I mean, this guy has a Bachelor Party, The Money Pit, The Burbs. You know, you're getting the best Big. Bosom buddies, for that matter, Mark. If we really want to date ourselves, but this is a Hanks. This is a Hanks all-timer, to say the least. So yeah, League of Their Own. I'm with it. I'm honest. It's a great film.
I think so too. And to go to one of Mark's points, Lori Petty, I'm wondering if the one of the great lines from the movie is Tom Hanks saying that there's no crying in baseball because he's got a player on the field that's balling, and I wonder if literally he's speaking to that player, but figuratively he's speaking to the Lori Petty character sometimes.
Right.
And I think that's.
And I should mention John Lovitz, as small as a role as he was in that, was outstanding. That was
pound for
John
pound.
Lovitz.
Pound for pound, one of the great comedic performances in the 90s. Here's my question. Y'all remember the movie well, right? Here's my question. Big debate. Did Dottie drop the ball on purpose, or did she drop the ball because Kit knocked her over and it was fair and square? Did she let her little sister win, or did Kit, the little sister, finally beat her big sister? What do you think?
I'm saying she dropped it on purpose.
Ooh.
I think she was that good. Who's doing splits behind the plate to catch a foul ball? And then she's going to let Laura Petty, like a $110, soaking wet, run her over? No. Dottie she was the GOAT.
She was.
I never even considered that.
Her first and only season in the league. I think it may be the other thing, because when Kit rounds the base against the wishes of the third base coach, if you see Dottie and Gina Davis's performance, she's surprised. She's surprised Kit has rounded the bases, and she wasn't expecting that. So I think it's possible Kit got the best of her that day for the first time.
I think she let her have it so she wouldn't have to hear her crying in the potential sequel.
Let's get on to the next pick. We're going to be here forever.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so second round, my second pick. I'm going back to the 80s here. I'm going 1984 and Robert Redford, The Natural. Now, it's a little hokey, the whole Doc says I can't play because I got this bullet lodged in me and my stomach can explode kind of stuff. But I think it does. I think it's a great movie. You got the whole folklore of striking out what was a kind of personification of Babe Ruth early in that movie, and then coming back as an old guy, and people your age, son, don't start playing baseball. They retire, and just waiting for his chance. Then you get the whole gambling side of baseball, which I thought was really interesting. That's probably a lot of part of that movie that a lot of people forget about. But I think what makes this movie so good is, one, Robert Redford was outstanding, but two, the ending of that. You get the lightning, he's bleeding from the side or whatever, and he just crushes it. And the music, that music at the end of that movie is as good as Hoosiers theme music. It just really kind of, he hits the lights. I don't want to ruin the movie for anybody that's, under the age of 40 or whatever. But, the sparks are going everywhere. And a personal story. I actually met Robert Redford when I was younger. I was a kid, right when Legal Eagles came out, Ben. I don't know if you remember that one with Deborah Winger and Daryl Hannah. The premiere was in New Orleans, and we got to meet him, me and my brother. And my dad was like, go up to him and tell him he's the best damn ball player you've ever seen. And I was like 8 or whatever. I'm like, I'm not telling him that. And I wish to this day that I had. My dad ultimately went up to him and told him that. But to me, The Natural, there's some goofy parts in it and stuff I'm not a big fan of. But to me, it's one of the best endings to any baseball movie ever made. The Natural. There. Live with it.
It's like crack. It's like baseball movie crack. That those final moments especially. I'm kind of like in your headspace about Field of Dreams, where it's like it takes a while to get there, but the journey. It's not like the destination is better than the journey. I don't believe it goes in some dark places, right? Like where you have this stalker fan essentially who's turns out to be homicidal, and it's just like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this inspirational sports movie to go there. But I think that the key to it all is just Redford. I mean, the likability of Redford, again, like the fact that he can pull off that character. It's wonderful. It's just nostalgia. It's just like an overdose of nostalgia in 2 hours. And it's a perfect pick, man. I mean, again, we're talking short list here, and it's Baseball Movie Hall of Fame.
Payback is a switch, Heim, because there's less cheese on a Nolan Ryan fastball than there was in that movie. I'm not buying Redford swinging anything other than a pool cue in The Color of Money. So
talk about slow movies.
Come on. We'll do pool movies another time, but that's one of the greats. Don't be hating on Color of Money. Anyway,
that's like saying Over the Top's not a good arm wrestling movie. It's the only arm wrestling movie. All right, but go ahead, give it to me on The Natural.
I think you already got it. It's a bit much for me. Even the ending. I mean, there's some goosebumps, but I don't know. There's so much we've seen it in real life. Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, some of those stories, but to recreate something quite that. I mean, you're always doing dramatics, even Major League, but at least it was funny. But
Jeez.
not a bad movie.
Break it up, you two. Man.
Should have been a farmer. Go ahead. I'm sorry. All right. What do you got for us, Ike? Dazzle us.
I think I'm on the clock. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and finish off Costner. This one, y'all might make fun of me about this. I'm not sure. I don't know how people in general feel about it. For the love of the game, it's kept me in it. I mean, I think the concept has it a top 5 just because this guy is dealing with growing older. He's dealing with the familiar family problems to so many people. He's going through, this retirement that he's facing, and he's out there throwing a freaking perfect game. And we're getting to stay in his head throughout the whole thing. That owns me alone. So, have at me.
Did he steal your pick? Chaim?
No, actually, I was going to agree with him. Actually, I
Don't
had.
give it away.
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away. We have another round to go here. I'm just saying.
Oh no, I'm just simply saying it's on my list. But go ahead. No,
I was going to say
I was actually going to agree with him. To his surprise, I might actually agree with Ike on baseball movie here.
I was really excited for that movie, and I think it delivered for the most part. I saw it at the theater, and looking back, it's one of those where I can pick up and watch it at any time. And again, it's like Costner baseball. I'm in. I think and it's also directed by Sam Raimi. Like, if you're familiar with that guy's career, this is the director of, the Evil Dead movies and Darkman, and now Drag Me to Hell and these other. He's like the last guy you would think to make a romantic baseball film. But I guess where people might criticize it is like the sappiness, right, of like the love story. But I don't necessarily buy that. I like Kelly Preston a lot. May she rest in peace. What about you? Like, does it bother you guys in the least?
Not at all. I'm Kelly Preston. I was a huge Kelly Preston fan going all the way back to The Experts, if you remember that one, Ben. The with John Travolta.
Mark.
Yeah. In the. No, I love this one. I think John C. Reilly I thought was really good. Like, you see him, it's like there's no way he's a major league catcher, but I think he plays that role well. And J.K. Simmons, before he really became J.K. Simmons, I thought it was really good as the manager. And then it just. I love the line at the end. The cathedral known as Yankee Stadium now belongs to a chapel. Like, speaking of cheese, see, you like cheese, Ike.
I like a little cheese.
Yeah, you like a little cheese. But no, I loved it, and I thought a lot of it was the baseball aspect of it, and facing guys that have come through his career, been on his team, he played with, he mentored, whatever, and having all that kind of have all that going through his head as he's playing this once in a lifetime game. I love the movie. I love the pick, Ike. Well done.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. That was better than I expected.
But you know what I love seeing in baseball movies? Again, like, I hate to keep sounding like a broken record with the authenticity thing. I love seeing major league uniforms on screen in baseball movies. Like, you have a lot of football movies where they can't portray the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. Basketball movies where these fake professional teams, but baseball movies for the most part come through, and it's like, yeah, you believe this guy plays for the Detroit Tigers. You believe that the Cleveland Indians are the Indians, right? Or were the Indians, I should say. So that's one thing I love about this too, is just seeing them in the road unis, playing in Yankee Stadium, throwing that perfect game. That New York Yankees fan in the airport lays it on a little thick sometimes, but I love by the end, he's like, all right, he was out, when you throw him out.
Good job. Good job, Chappell.
It's a good pick.
Take us into round 3, Ben.
All right, round 3. I got every movie that I wanted. So I've won this draft. I'm declaring victory immediately, prematurely maybe, before y'all make your final picks. But from 2011, I'm going with Moneyball, a latecomer to the great baseball movie conversation. And when I first saw it, I liked it, didn't love it. But it's a movie that I think I have watched every year for like the past 5-6 years or so. Like, I just fell in love with it, and it became an instant classic just a few years after it came out. The guy who directed, his name's Bennett Miller. He made the Truman Capote movie from 2005 with Philip Seymour Hoffman, Capote. But this was an Oscar-nominated adaptation of the famed Michael Lewis book about sabermetrics. And how the Oakland Athletics general manager Billy Beane, here played by Brad Pitt, of course, probably in a career best performance if we're being honest, but how he fielded a competitive team with almost no money compared to his major league counterparts during the 2002 season. It gets better with every single viewing. It just takes you into the business of baseball. It's all about adversity and sort of like what you do as the truest possible underdog. When what does Billy Beane say when he's talking to all the scouts, and in one of a handful of great scenes where he's sitting in a room full of real scouts, real baseball scouts, and they're just speaking the language of baseball. And I think people have always wondered, how do you build a baseball team, especially when you're faced with a salary cap like the one that with a budget like they faced when they're up against teams like the New York Yankees and others, and eventually the Boston Red Sox, as we learned later in the movie. And it's wonderful. It's heartwarming. You've got this father-daughter relationship that kind of sneaks up on you while you're watching it, but from the baseball business point of view, with Pitt and then Jonah Hill coming in as his assistant GM, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, as the A's manager, it's just wonderful because he's up against it and nobody believes in him, not even his owner in some cases, and they get it done, and they do it with math of all things, and it's just a really cool, true story. And it's one that I can watch. Right, I could put it on right now and be satisfied. Like, I never get tired of it. So
yeah, to your point, I thought Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill were oddly like funny. Like they just had a good rapport. And a young Chris Pratt in that movie. No, I loved it. I love the pick. It's one of those movies where no matter where it is in that showing, you come across it, you're going to stick with it. It's gut wrenching at the end. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you feel like you've invested, no pun intended, with the whole Moneyball system there, and you just want to see it pay off. And I know I think they try to make it sound like it's a moral victory for the way baseball is done. But I felt defeated. Like, I wanted them to win and get to the next deal. Like, again, don't want to spoil it, but at the end of the original Rocky, like, you feel like, oh, he really did win. And with Moneyball, I was kind of like, hey, can I use the word? I was kind of pissed they lost. Like, the story, but to see it unfold the way they did it, I thought it was really cool. And to have guys play David Justice and have the Giambi brother references I thought really made it, to your point, Ben, more real.
Well, yeah, and it's a testament to the writing, the direction, the performances that, a sequence where they're making phone calls, trading players, releasing players, signing players, and it's literally just in a quiet office, and they're whispering to each other, and they're going from one team to the next, and the secretary is connecting them with this
GM. Really good.
Like, it feels like it's like a car chase that you're watching, but they're just trading players on the phone, and so it's just, they just pull off a lot with a little in that. And yeah, I think, like, to your point, and not to belabor this, but like to your point about, like, do they win or lose? Like, suspense matters in sports movies, and you kind of like have that tussle with yourself of like, does it even matter if they won or lost? Like, what does each result teach us? Because I think in a lot of our picks here, most of the protagonists and their teams lose, right? Yeah. And so sometimes, like in the case of Major League, like, it's a big win, it's a big celebration, but in a league of their own, and some of these others that we're talking about, like they don't win, and so sometimes that teaches us something. And all of us who have played sports at some point know that, like, losing builds character. The same is true when you're telling a story like it in a movie. And I think that that's true about Moneyball too.
Yeah. It's an important movie to do also because it's such a pivotal moment in the history of baseball. The switch to metrics was so unbelievable. As a matter of fact, some people can almost blame the movie for negatively influencing baseball too far that way, because everything was so powerful with using metrics. You go back to Major League, which was 20 years before, and you have the manager, Lou Brown, saying, Ricky hasn't had much luck against this guy, but I got a hunch he's due. I mean, who manages like that? Certainly not. And also, Brad Pitt, the coolest guy in town in that movie. I mean, that is one of those quintessentials. You want to be Brad Pitt.
But if you're Billy Beane, the real Billy Beane, like, how good do you feel? It's like, oh, who's playing me in this movie? Brad Pitt signed up. Brad Pitt, okay. Make me look good. People think
that is way cool. Yeah. Mark, you have the penultimate pick right
Yeah,
now.
a lot of different ways I could go here, but I have. I'm actually going to wind up with three of my top four selections, so I ain't mad at that. I'm going with 2013's 42.
Whoa.
Jackie
Yes.
Robinson story, and this one, I hope we have time. A couple minutes at the end just to throw out some other movies that we were considering because
Yeah,
there's a
we'll do
long
that.
list of baseball movies. But I just loved Chadwick Boseman in this. I love the struggle on and off the field. I love it's kind of like Remember the Titans in football a little bit, but I think this was a lot more authentic to watch the opinions and appearances change from start to finish and everything he had to go through on and off the field. I thought was great. I thought we saw Harrison Ford really in a different light with that Branch Rickey role. It's hard not to cheer for Chadwick Boseman in anything he did, right? But I thought in this, they brought it all together. I really enjoyed this movie. I sat down and watched it with my kids. There was just a lot of great energy in it, and I thought it gave a really good insight into baseball at that time and everything that he faced. So I'm going with 42 with my final pick in the draft.
Yeah. Partly filmed in Birmingham, Ben.
I was going to say, like, does the Alabama component play any role here in your pick?
Not at all. Not
Okay.
a single.
Featuring Bessemer native Andre Holland as the sports writer in the movie, too. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of Alabama. I think maybe, was that one where our colleague Bob Carlton was an extra? I can't remember. He's been
he
an
might
extra
have
in a
been.
few. Yeah, but
Lucas
anyway,
Black was also in that movie.
Lucas Black
That's
was in
right.
it. That's correct.
Alabama native. There you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's a great scene, too, where he puts his arm around Jackie
Yeah,
Robinson in the movie.
for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoyed about that was Boseman. I know the directors have something to do with this, the editors do, but his work also, he looked like Jackie Robinson. Certain guys play other guys away, and I don't mean up close look like Jackie Robinson because he didn't, but when he's diving for a ground ball, he just has that look. Maybe it's just the baggy uniforms, I don't know, but I totally bought it, and it was certainly a strong
Physicality
movie.
of the performance, right? Like,
That's it.
yeah, it goes on to play Black Panther, obviously like an action-centric role. I mean, he got there by playing Jackie Robinson in a really good movie, really good baseball movie.
Yeah,
All right, Ike.
yeah. Well, we're going to finish up the official picks here, and then we might have a couple of free agent signings. I'm going back through my list to make sure that I haven't left any out, but this is where we are. Okay, let's bring our buddy Ricky Vaughn back in on the scene here and do 8 Men Out.
Oh, wow.
All right, nice.
I loved the whole period baseball thing. I loved everybody in the movie played their character well. It felt like the movie felt like it was 30 years old when it was released in a sense. And then it was set 30 years before that or 40 years before that. So it was just great old-timey baseball. And my favorite, we talk about the quotables, and Charlie Sheen, I love the moment he goes into the wall, crashes into the wall. And those walls were not, plexiglass or anything like that back then. The ivy in Wrigley's not soft either, by the way. But he goes into a brick or block wall and, falls down, and they help him up. He jogs out, and the manager, who is played by, help me with this, John Mulroney?
John Mahoney.
John Mahoney. And I can't even, I'm losing his name at the moment, who Charlie Sheen played. But he said, "Hey, man, why don't you save a little something?" And Charlie Sheen said, "Save it for what?" And that's such just a brief moment in the movie, but I had to mention that because I love that. That is inspiring stuff to me.
No, it's a great cast, Ike, and it was one that I had in my top 10. I love that cast. I mean, you mentioned, but John Cusack, D.B. Sweeney, even Christopher Lloyd, I think, was in that. It's been a minute. I got to be honest. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but it was definitely on the top 10 of my list. I love that movie.
Directed by the great John Sayles, underrated
Okay.
filmmaker at this point, but you're right, the ensemble's amazing. Featuring another Alabama native, Michael Rooker, from Jasper.
That's right.
Wow.
Who's a great actor. But I mean, you go up and down the list. You mentioned him, right? Like John Cusack, Christopher Lloyd, John Mahoney, Charlie Sheen. I'm looking at David Strathairn, D.B. Sweeney, Michael Rooker. I mean, the list kind of goes on here. But it's an awesome pick, Ike. It's at this point, I think it's kind of underrated by a lot of people. It's one that kind of gets left out of some conversations. But sad story, well told, beautifully filmed. And I remember growing up hearing all about it, like when we would talk baseball movies. What should I see, Dad? What's another great baseball movie? We got to watch 8 Men Out. That was on the list.
Yeah, definitely watch it. 1919 Black Sox Scandal. Okay, let's do a quick free-for-all, some free agent picks.
Ben, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll go first. Bad News Bears would have been my next pick had y'all picked any of my others. It's from 1976, classic with Walter Matthau. I'll throw out an underrated pick from 1994, and this is a time when things like Rookie of the Year and The Sandlot and Angels in the Outfield were coming out. To me, the best from that period was a movie called Little Big League. Big League, about the kid who inherits the Minnesota Twins from his dying grandfather and becomes the manager. Fantastic baseball movie. Underrated, knows the game. Also from 1994, Cobb, starring Tommy Lee Jones as Ty Cobb. Also partially filmed in Alabama at Rickwood Field. And the last one I'll pick from 2016, Richard Linklater's spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused, a movie called Everybody Wants Some, which is about a college baseball team sort of coming together and building chemistry before their semester and season starts. Underrated slice of life ensemble pick there. People should check out.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. What you got, Mark?
I love Little Big League. Ken Griffey was awesome in that movie as the cameo. Like it was basically let's play playground ball on Major League and see if we can win. It was great, and them trying to figure out the math problem was hilarious. That's in my wheelhouse for sure. So I mentioned 61, Billy Crystal's kind of ode to Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. I love that one. The Rookie with Dennis Quaid I thought was really well done. Talks a little. It takes you from the humble beginnings and this dirt, and he's a math teacher or whatever it is, and he goes into the minors and he's doing his homework with his kid on the payphone. For those that don't know, payphones are these stand-alone things where you have to put money in them. And then he gets to the major league. It's kind of the big ultimate. The other thing we failed to mention, which will probably rain hell down on us, is The Sandlot, which a lot of people I think it resonates with. I was not much of a baseball guy. I was more of a basketball guy, but the idea of going out all day and playing baseball with your guys until the lights came on, I think resonates with a lot of people. Short story, I think you guys know. We had Patrick Renna on our show.
Oh yeah,
WNSP, and so I had him. We did a scene from that, and where he finishes with "You're killing me, Smalls," and he just knew it. He just played along, and it was really cool. But people will always remember that for the swimming pool scenes and just being out there with your guys and not realizing that. That last time was the last time you ever did that. I think it just hits with a lot of people. So there are a ton of them, but those are a couple that really stood out to me.
The Sandlot was my next pick. Also, let's go way back. Mention Pride of the Yankees. That's sort of the one that got it all started, right? I mean, inspiring story of Lou Gehrig, and obviously it's dated, and it's Gary Cooper. I think they had to flip the film to get him to hit left-handed, but and he still didn't look good doing it. But it was a big drama that kind of got the baseball movie thing started. Babe Ruth was in that movie
as himself. Crazy,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right,
and he was good.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Bad News Bears. I enjoyed some of the goofy, really off baseball type movies that weren't necessarily right down the fastballs down the middle, like Mr. 3000 or Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck.
Yes,
Mr. Baseball. Wow.
Yeah, those were great. And Cobb, I'm not going to disagree with your pick as a movie, but if anybody still has that Al Stump version of Cobb's life in their head, you need to revisit his bio. Because that is not, he has been really made into a monster, and he may have been a semi-monster, because of the time he lived and the way he was, but he was not the guy that has been portrayed in many, many things, including a big part of that movie. But so that was my notes for the end. Just, enjoy the movie, revisit the bio. So
I'll throw one more out there. I know we're going. Do y'all remember the one in the late 80s called Long Gone? It was about William Peterson was in it. The Stogies. It was a minor league team. Like Dermot Mulroney was in it.
Oh wow.
It's an awesome movie. I mean, just those movies for guys that love movies. Yeah. Highly recommend. I mean, it's probably dated. I haven't seen it in years, but it is a fantastic movie.
Long Gone. Yeah, no, I love the what you say about Cobb. Robert Wool playing that character, and Robert Wool, an unsung baseball movie hero, right? Playing the assistant coach or manager in Bull Durham too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
How about that? Good picks.
So we all win.
We do.
Well,
I
won, but yeah, you're right.
Well, we definitely all win because we can go get to screen the ones that we forgot about. Man, thanks guys. This was a blast. I really enjoyed doing it. We need to do something during football season.
Count me in, man. I always appreciate you having us on, Ike. You do a great job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Ike. Huge fan of the show.
All right.
Yes, you'll get invited again, Ben. Relax.
Hey, man. I'm always available.
All right. For Ben Flanagan and Mark Heim, I'm Ike Morgan. Thanks, everybody out there, for listening to us. We are going to be back here bright and early in the morning. Until then, as always, come by and see what we're doing anytime you want to on the internet at al.com.